Hi there, and welcome everyone for attending our webinar today, Out of Office Designing for Hybrid Work Environments. Really quick, before we get started, I just wanted to give a few housekeeping items. As all of you can see, you're currently muted and your video is disabled. We have our Q&A and the chat, which will be available and open for this webinar. So please submit your questions, your feedback as we're all chatting and going through this. We will do our best to answer them during the webinar, but of course, if we can't make it to your question, please know I will be sharing them with the panelists so they can respond. And I will also be sharing our panelists' email address. So if there are any questions that you think of after the fact, you can feel free to reach out to them. My last housekeeping item is we are currently recording this webinar, and we're doing this for the ability to share it out with everybody. Also to anybody who registered for this webinar but was unable to attend today will also be receiving this recording. So, well, great. What we'll go ahead and do now is we'll get started here. So let's everybody, our panelists, let's start showing our video and unmute yourself. Stop sharing my screen. There we go. Hi there.
Hi.
How's it going? Hi, Josh.
Hey, I made it.
Thank you.
How you guys doing?
Today? How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Good, good. Thanks for having us, Lindsay.
Looking forward to that.
Great. So let's go ahead and get started here. So I want to thank all of our panelists for being a part of today's webinar. I'm so excited for this conversation about, designing for this hybrid work environment. What does that look like to each of us in all of the different roles that we represent, and of course the different companies we're coming from too. So really quick, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Lindsay Rogers, and I'm a community manager here at MORTARR. And today I am joined by some amazing panelists to help have this conversation, and it should be just some great perspectives coming from each of our roles. So Trista, if you don't mind introducing yourself first.
Yes, my name's Trista Leach with Framery Acoustics. Framery is a company and leader in manufacturing soundproof pods and meeting spaces. And I'm the area sales manager in the North Central US region. I cover Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. I could go on and on. So I'm happy to be here today, and it's nice to meet everyone.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And Josh, I'll throw it over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey there. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Josh Dubrow. I'm Director of Sales here of our Diversified businesses over at Corporate Interiors. We're the largest platinum Steelcase dealer up here in the Philadelphia, Delaware, New Jersey area. We handle everything from furniture to being able to go ahead and do full interior solutions that include flooring, millwork, casework, branding, and AV throughout the space. So glad to be here, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mark, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. Happy to be here. I'm Mark Mannon. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Product Development with 95 Seating. 95 Seating is a mid-market seating company. We serve the commercial, healthcare, and education markets. Our task, conference side, stacking, and lounge seating has won several different design awards, whether it be the HIP, Good Design, or the ADEX award. We ship our chairs fast, so you get it in 5, 10, or 15 days. And lastly, our chairs are accessible to everyone. We are a vertically integrated company. We manufacture the majority of our products so we can control our costs and our quality. And that way we can pass the savings on to our customers. Great,
thank you for that. And you guys provided such great information about what each of your companies does. So for everybody out there in our Zoom universe, in our follow-up email that we send out tomorrow with the recording and the email addresses of our panelists, I'll also send out direct links to their website so that you each can click over, learn a little bit more about their company. And then, of course, if you have questions, you can reach out to our panelists too, and they can put you in touch with the right people. So thank you for that, everybody. I appreciate it. So I think this is just a perfect time to kind of dive into some of the questions that we've discussed before, kind of get the conversation going. So what I'll do is I'd like to have each of you answer the question. Of course, you know, if Josh is saying something and Trista, you've got something to add on, please feel free to step in and just kind of get the conversation going. So we'll go ahead. Josh, let's start with you then. So what is a hybrid workspace and what does that look like for you?
Starting off right off the top. I like it. So, I mean, that's really what we're here to talk about a lot today. You know, the hybrid work environment is not something that's new, right? It's not something that's, oh my gosh, this is this crazy new concept that all of a sudden is sweeping the nation, right? This is something that we have seen over years now. And really this past year and a half going through the COVID crisis has really brought it as something that's now a topic that some companies that were never considering it before are now saying, wait a minute, this might actually work for us, right? So that hybrid work environment is something that goes ahead and, you know, to oversimplify it, is something that blends in that office experience with that at home or remote experience that an employee can go ahead and be flexible to work between. Right. And there's various reasons why a company might go to that hybrid model. Right. Of course, we have the reasons that are prevalent with with COVID, trying to reduce the number of people within an office space at one time. You know, a lot of people were working from home this past year and a half. So having people come back to this model of going back to an office is something that has been difficult for some, especially when they may have been hired during this last year and a half and they don't know what it's like to be within that office. But having an in-office experience is something that we questioned over the last year and a half. Is that something that's staying? Is that something that we're gonna, you know, is everyone just gonna work out of their, you know, PJs on their dining room table for the rest of their life? Like what is actually gonna come of the future of work, right? And that's one of these big questions we've been getting is what is the future of the office? What is the future of that work environment? And really, one of the major contributors to needing to have some kind of hybrid or some in-office experience is to maintain and to continue to build upon the culture within an organization. Having that in-person interaction, having that in-person, nothing can replace that. That actual face-to-face time that you have, those impromptu interactions you have around the water cooler, right? Being able to grab lunch with someone, right? Being able to have these interactions and also being able to have that time to be able to focus, to be able to sit down and be able to really hunker down and work on what you have to work on without the distractions that we might have at home.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Trista, any feedback on that?
Yeah, Josh, I liked how you mentioned the flexibility of working from home as well as having the option to work in an office space. Pre-pandemic, when we thought hybrid workspace, we thought, you know, having flexible spaces within a company's facility. And so having these flexible hybrid spaces in your facility will really help team members return back to the office for video conference calls like we're on right now. Where are they going to go when 20 employees go back to the office and they're in a very open work environment? And do they have the spaces they need now that might be different than what they needed pre-pandemic? And so really strategizing on, yes, maybe having a flexible work model where people can work from home and have the choice to go into the office that day, but also having the tools and technology and soundproof spaces for people to step inside and use when they are at the office, because we work differently now than we worked before. And we can all relate to that.
Yeah, I do think that this has completely changed the way that the workforce will be and how people work. But I also feel like too, listening to what Josh and Trista, what you had to say, that this was kind of starting before this pandemic even happened. I mean, I am a fully remote employee and I was able to make this shift before what we've all experienced this year and a half. So it was already coming. And now I feel like everybody, whether you wanted it or not, you're kind of forced to see what that's going to look like for all of us moving forward. So thank you for that. And then Mark, any feedback from you as well?
Sure. I really like the idea that, you know, again, this has been something that has been in the works for a while as companies are just being more flexible with their employees and also with their work. But I think the pandemic has really opened up the opportunity to, pardon me, I've got my call coming in, but is where the office can be used more for collaboration. So really, with the trend with more workers working from home at times and their schedule during the week, is use the office and create spaces in the office more for collaboration, for team collaboration, that while it can be done while workers are at home, it can be sometimes tricky really involving those people from home. So when they really want to optimize collaboration, come into the office, have those rooms that are really built around team collaboration, have lounge furniture, mobile furniture, flexible furniture, seating that can be easily moved around. And then also in your social spaces, like Josh was mentioning, around the water cooler, around your food areas, make those areas also collaboration areas where they can be a combination work and food and eating. So really dial up those spaces, those social spaces and those collaboration spaces, so you can maximize and optimize your office and really continue to build your culture, build innovation, and also enhance productivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, this is a great segue into our next question too, is what do we see as the pros, cons, or even the challenges of a hybrid workspace? What do we see as that? Trista, what do you think on that?
Yes, well, I've been helping companies try to figure out their strategies within the office for 10 or more years now. And with that being said, I see this hybrid work model as a positive, because as much as we were telling and sharing the benefits and the studies that show the positive factors that go with a hybrid work model, traditional companies weren't following along. They were too afraid to make the change. They were afraid that their employees wouldn't be accepting of not having their station every day and that go-to spot. And now the pandemic has forced us to really, everyone has to deal with this change. And I think it was a long time coming that needed to happen for a positive factor in the workplace.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Josh, what do you think about like pros, cons, or the challenges that you see within a hybrid workspace?
Sure. Yeah. And we've been getting asked this a lot, a lot of companies coming to us and saying, Josh, what are you seeing? What are you seeing in the market? What are other companies similar to ours be doing? And, it's the hybrid environment. It really comes down to the industry as well, right? Because it might look different for an accounting organization versus sales organization, right? So depending on the industry, like you mentioned, Lindsay, that you've always been full remote, right? That's something that's just been your role, and it's something that works for you and your business. But is that also for all the departments in your company? Is that for every organization to take a look at that and understand that? And some of the pros there is, that of having a hybrid workspace is that if you have that space to be able to go to, then there's ways to create a hybrid environment that has spaces that can be activated, right? So activated collaborative spaces, right? Being able to have touchdown spaces for someone who can go into the office. Maybe they only need to be there for a couple hours. Maybe they want to have a couple meetings, so they're going to work out of the office that day, but maybe not the next day, right? But then on the con side, right, you've got that issue of culture, right? You've got the issue of, if you have people that are working full remote, if you have people that are not having some sort of in-office, in-person experience, how is that being maintained? How is that unintentional interaction between departments or coworkers happening?
Yeah. I do have to, just from my own experience, I remember when I started working remote before anybody else was, and it was a challenge. Personally, for me, being the one that was remote, but attending meetings where maybe the conference room was filled with 10 different people, because nobody else is experiencing what I am. So I selfishly always think, I'm like, now that everybody's remote, we kind of understand better. So even with this hybrid work environment, I feel like people better understand what it's like to work from home. so that it's not because I remember just being kind of, it was a challenge for me. It really became a challenge if I was in a meeting with a group of other people, just in regards to, I mean, you know, you can't talk over each other because then you can't hear each other anymore, you know? So that was just my personal experience. You know, there was like so many pros and challenges that I saw along with that.
And Lindsay, if I can bring up, I mean, you brought up a great point in that being in that hybrid model, right? Let's say it's a Tuesday and you've decided that only half the office is going to be in on a Tuesday, right? And there's an entire company meeting that's occurring on that Tuesday. Well, now you have people that are in the office that are in the room, and then you have maybe people like yourself that are not in the physical office, so they're calling in, right? Let's go back to 2019, 2018, right? How many times, you know, rhetorical question, but how many times did you go to the office to be part of the meeting, to be in the room, so that way you're not a fly on the wall and that your voice and your opinions can be heard, right? Yeah. That's something that can be so vitally important to an organization to be able to have that experience. And this hybrid model has brought, you know, we have got an entire AV business that's part of corporate interiors, right? And something that we've been asked a lot is, how do I make my in-office experience how do I make sorry, let me correct that. How do I make those people that are calling into a meeting have that same experience as the people that are sitting in the conference room? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's not an easy thing. That's easier said than done, right? It involves having the right layout, having the right design of the conference room, having the right AV in the conference room, having the right camera, the right microphones, the right screens, and the positioning. There's a lot of elements that go into that we've been having that conversation with many clients, and they're incorporating things like the Microsoft Surface Hub, for instance, as a product that they may not have considered before because the financial investment might not have been there for that. But now it's like, it might be more of a necessity than it ever was before.
And I'll chime in there as well. Looking at real estate costs now after the pandemic, thinking companies say, for example, if you have 100 employees, you don't need 100 desks. Mm-hmm. And so reducing real estate cost savings to the company as a whole can then create these hybrid flex solutions within their space with the AV, with the technology they need, with the soundproof private spaces that people need when they go into the office to stay connected with team members at home.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think the key is that you have to evolve. That as employees are shifting to hybrid models, and depending upon what the percentage of those that are working from home and what departments, they have to evolve their strategy and their workspace. Mm-hmm. They have to free up areas in their space for more team collaboration, as well as focus areas and touchdown areas for those employees to go to. When they're having their team collaboration, for those that are calling in from their home, they need to make sure that all their technology is working both at the office and at the home, so those people at the home feel like they're part of the meeting. So really what we've heard from our customers is that you have to evolve it, that the first strategy you put in place may not work. And as you find out about more technology and more options, then you can evolve your plan as you move forward. So I think really the key got to be fluid. You have to be able to change your plan as you go.
Yeah. And I was just thinking too that, you know, I'm going to go back to our environment was kind of going in this direction in the first place, but having experienced what we did over these past, however, you know, year and a half or whatever, it really forced everybody to take action right now, you know, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, but it forced us all to move forward with the times. You know, we really didn't have the opportunity to say, oh, let's see what this looks like. It's like, no, we had to figure it out right now. So, you know, there's good and bad things to that. But so Mark, next question to you. So as you are receiving new office project requests, what are some of the trends that you've seen clients or even the end consumer ask for? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, and it falls in line with what we were talking about, where the office is being used more for collaboration. And so you need those products that are flexible, that are mobile, that are quick changeover products, like nesting chairs. You can easily move them out of the way or nest them. Comfortable, obviously, chairs that also facilitate movement and changing of positions. Because again, with team collaboration, those employees may be sitting in their chairs a little longer without taking a break. So Wellness is very important for the employees nowadays, and we really want to focus on allowing that end user to move and change positions in their chair. So those are products that we're really focusing on, and really also making sure that you do have products that can promote privacy and allow focus work. And then lastly, really make sure that we're designing our products that there's a blend between the residents and the work. As employees come in from the home, they want to feel welcoming. They want furniture where they're comfortable, it's welcoming, and has that residential feel to it.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Josh, same question to you. Those office project requests, what are you seeing the trends? What are those trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? So in the beginning of kind of early COVID pandemic days, we have a 40,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Delaware, where we retooled the entire manufacturing floor to start working on these temporary acrylic screens, barriers, all sorts of these temporary sort of dividers, if you will, that went up. Because it took time for a lot of major manufacturers to be able to come up and say, here's your solution, right? Here's what can happen. So now what we're seeing is this trend from that temporary to that more permanent. Right. So companies, for instance, like Framery, right? Companies like Steelcase, right, have come out with these products that you can go ahead and create these personal harbors within spaces, right? Being able to create these spaces where people feel safe, they feel secure, and they feel like they have their own space within an environment can be so key. Because you have people that you've got to think about the population coming back to the office. Right? You have people that have worked from home for the past year and a half, right? In some cases, right? You have those essential businesses where they never left, they didn't skip a beat, don't get me wrong. And, and I commend those, and I don't want to put those aside, but for the majority of corporate America, you've got a lot of companies that are out there where these employee force have been working in their own private office, or they're working on their dining room table, right? So to Mark's point, being able to have spaces where they're comfortable, places that have that res-immersial, that comfort feel where they can not just lounge, but also be able to collaborate with their employees that they maybe not have had seen even for a while, and be able to bounce ideas off of, and then also have these enclosed spaces that, maybe they're in that hoteling kind of environment where you have a bunch of private pods that are set up within a space where people can be able to do that. I mean, I'm working with a pharmaceutical company right now that they got a 20,000 square foot space that they're removing about 75% of all of their 6x7 workstations right now. They're removing them. They're getting rid of them. And they're going to replace those with, to Mark's point, they're replacing those with those collaborative type environments where they can go ahead and have that either soft seating areas, be able to have reservable private offices. So that way, people that aren't there every single day are able to reserve those. And then they're also incorporating hoteling within the environment. So that way, again, people that aren't there every day are able to utilize that space within that hybrid environment, but they don't necessarily need their own resident 6x6 workstation that they report to, and that they're going to set up with their family photos on and really make their own. So a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but not unheard of. It's not revolutionary ideas, but I think to your point earlier, Lindsay, this is definitely pushed in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And Trista, any feedback?
Yeah, and for Framery being solely based on soundproof pods and meeting spaces, we started in the corporate workplace environment to solve noise issues. Mm-hmm. And as offices got more open and louder and more collaborative, they still needed these spaces close by for people to step inside for doctor's phone calls, family phone calls, client phone calls, where they weren't disrupting the rest of the office. And with new requests this past year, I would say, we're not only helping corporate workplaces today, we're seeing healthcare jump up more and more and saying, we need this for telehealth appointments. We need this in our doctors and nurses in the back of the house, as well as in the front of the house for patients that are coming in that need to take that important phone call to a family member to give them good or bad news. We're also helping K through 12 and universities with education hybrid models where students are, taking classes online, but needing to be connected to a teacher that's at the school, and they need spaces to step inside that's confidential and can have that privacy. Looking into K through 12, I just think of, helping stress levels and mental health for younger kids that are overstimulated, even adults that get overstimulated, to step inside our pods and be able to take that time to themselves for whatever reason they need it for.
That's great. So we did have a question come in that I wanted to ask, and this person's referring to specific lockers, but with the amount of people coming, the amount of people coming into the office, but still trying to expand how many lockers they're including for their employees. Do you guys have any feedback on that? And to whoever asked the question, please, I hope I'm saying that correctly. But so
I can jump in here, Lindsay, if you like, and start us off. Lockers have been big, but have boomed. I mean, they have boomed. I mean, literally, if you even furniture manufacturers that didn't create lockers in the past have all of a sudden been like, holy crud, why have we not done this yet? Because they're getting requests for it, out the wazoo. I mean, we've been making them, I mentioned our in-house manufacturer earlier, we've been making custom lockers for years. I mean, we're working right now. We were just awarded an international contract with Vanguard, where they've ordered lockers for all their offices. And these are custom lockers that have, that have power and charging all built into them. I've got another client that we're working with where they wanted to have these custom shaped lockers. So that way in their hoteling stations for their IT team, that's only going to be there a couple days a week because they're in a hybrid environment. They wanted to have lockers so that way they could put their personal keyboard and mouse inside of a locker. So that way they weren't lugging it back and forth from home all the time, and that would stay in the office. But having those lockers within a space have become extremely popular, whether it's an I-owned locker or it's more of a what I consider a gym style locker, where it's a shared locker that you would use a different one every single day, right?
Yeah, I like your point there with the shared versus having your own locker too, because it gives an employee a space to use when they're in the office and put their stuff down, because they don't have that traditional desk anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't have all the storage spaces that they had before. So they need those lockers, especially in Minnesota when you have snow and coats and things like that. And maybe it's yoga mats or whatever you have that day, along with your work tools as well.
Good. I'm so glad to see that you've seen like an increase in that for lockers, because obviously working from home, I'm not thinking that way. So it's really interesting, and hearing you both explain like the need to have some place to put your stuff, whether you're in the office every day or it's a hybrid environment. I mean, what a great solution to that, even though you may not have like your own desk, someplace to lock up and put your things. So that's really interesting. Thank you. So Mark, any feedback on that before I move forward?
No, not only that we hear that trend continue to grow, that just the need to really satisfy that remote worker as they come into the office and provide an area for them to work, focus work, as well as to store their belongings.
Well, thank you for everyone for answering that question. So Josh, I'm going to send this next one to you. So what have been some of the challenges that you've heard from clients when they come to you to design this hybrid environment, and how have you addressed them?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time? Of course, being on remote here, right? It's breaking up on me.
I know. So when you hear those challenges from clients or consumers about designing a hybrid space, what are those challenges that they're sharing with you, and how have you addressed them?
Oh, sure. So I mean, the question we always get is, we've been getting now more than ever, is what is the office of the future, right? It's as if it's this magical, like mystical unicorn that someone's gonna, that's gonna be figured out with the wave of a wand, right? Because it's, before 2020, it was, all about rentable square feet, right? How many people can you fit within a rentable square feet, the more the merrier. And if you get even more than that, you win, right? You know, it was how small can you do it? That's why people were going with hoteling to try and maximize that. So it's, you know, so some of those challenges that we've heard has been, you know, how do we find and I mentioned earlier, depending on the type of organization, depending on the, you know, what it is they do, what the industry is, what hybrid is for them, and what that future office might be different from might be different from a bank than it would be from a law firm, right? Those may be two totally different office of the future, office of tomorrow, if you will. But one of those big concerns too comes around the financial concern, right? Because now during, you know, when a lot of companies have struggled financially over this past year and a half, you have a lot of organizations that are saying, okay, I want to have my employees come back, but I can't afford to, you know, put out $1 million to completely redo everything, right? I can't afford to do that because we've already had to put investment into other elements of an organization in order to maintain their business. So there's ways around that, right? And Steelcase, being a platinum Steelcase dealer, I mean, we've got access to things like, you know, financial services where people are able to have 0% financing, and that's been something that's been a huge additive to a lot of our clients and has helped to get around some of those challenges. But it's people are typically, by the time they've come to me about it, they know the what. They know the why, but the question is the how, right? What is their space going to actually look like? And that's where that conversation really launches, and where I would suggest to any company to, you know, get with your local dealer and a local design firm and work together with that in a tight team and help them understand exactly what your organization is, your culture, and where you want to go to be able to achieve your new space.
Yeah, I definitely see the future of hybrid as being so much more customized to each company and their needs, you know, and that's kind of an exciting part of it. So Trista, same question to you. Any challenges that you've heard from clients as they're trying to create these new hybrid spaces, and how have you addressed them? What have you said to them?
I would say I haven't heard the challenges. I see it on a day-to-day basis. So this past year, I fully work remote as well, just like you. And to stay connected with my 8-state territory, I have to have these video conference calls. And when I see the person on the other side of the call, they're in an open workplace environment. They don't have the spaces to go to jump on these video conference calls that doesn't disrupt the rest of the office. And so I have a good example of a government client last week. She took my video conference call and was walking through a storage room, back storage room, because it was the only space for her to step inside that she could have privacy. And I said, you need a pod exactly for this reason. And so when I see people sitting at their desk with their earbuds in, trying to jump on these video conference calls, they can't have the conversation like we're having right now. They can't take themselves off mute without disrupting the rest of the office. And so that's been a huge challenge for people to kind of wrap their mind around, saying we need more one-person spaces to step inside to jump on these calls. Because if you look at your calendar for this week, next week, the following week, you have video conference calls scheduled back to back, and it's not going away anytime soon. So they need these spaces to step inside and support what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Trista, I think you bring up an awesome point, really, because I mean, I talked a little bit about the AV aspect of it and needing the right kind of technology, but it is having that space to be able to do so too. I mean, so many companies are still sitting with a full open work plan and not having that place, even if they are fully back in the office, even if they fully return to the office, they're speaking with their clients, vendors, customers that might not be. Right. So or potential employees that they might be doing a video call for. Right. So being able to have those little reservable private spaces to do so, where they can have those private conversations, and making sure there's that actual some level at least of soundproofing in there, so that way they're not just in a fishbowl, is really important.
Yeah, I have a feeling if we were in the same office, we would have our own pods, because we would definitely be talking over each other.
What are you trying to say? Who have you been talking to?
And I'd like to address the challenges that our customers had talked to us about, the their workers remote offices. So work from home. So when this pandemic started, there's some obviously that have been working at home for a while and they can continue to work very successfully. Others weren't used to it. They didn't have an ergonomic chair that's warranted for a lifetime, and so, or an adjustable desk. And so they came to us and said, you know, what can you do for our employees to put together a program that will then be able to ship countrywide, company-wide, an ergonomic chair that's adjustable, that blends with that has a variety of chairs that we can blend with our different employees' interiors, that's warranted for a lifetime. So and that also works with an adjustable desk. So we did that. We put together several programs that would be a standard program company-wide, a countrywide, as well as a program that would be just for that single employee that needs to buy one chair. Dealers often don't like to work with those types of purchases, and so we made it easy for them to work with just one chair purchase. And so that's where we really were able to jump in and offer some help with their workers to set up their office at home.
Yeah, and that, Mark, because back in March of 2020, that was the first thing people were complaining about, is their back and sitting at a kitchen table or an island or sitting in their bed or, right, you know, a couch, and they didn't have the tools ergonomically to work from home. And all of a sudden, you know, people like yourself were sending out chairs to people's homes to make sure that they were supported and that they did feel good throughout the day, and when they were able to step away from their work and still feel good without having any pain or anything like that. So I'm happy you touched base on that part of it for shipping to people's homes.
And I can say too, when I was working from home and I was setting up my office in our guest room, the first thing I bought was a stand-up desk, and I'm standing right now at my desk, and it is just so much more comfortable. You know, you probably see me shift from like leg to leg, but that's as bad as it gets. You know what I mean? But to have the ability to have those items to make it so your home office is just as comfortable as if you were in your actual company's office. Very important.
Sure. And then to have a chair if you'd like, because, you know, I have a sit to stand desk. And so I'm standing, you know, 6 hours a day, but also there's times that you need to perch. And so have that chair that can also perch when you need to get, you know, a break from standing is critical.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Great conversation there. And then my next question, Trista, I'll throw that to you. So have you had any clients who have shifted from fully in person to then remote and are now trying to find solutions for these office spaces?
I haven't had any companies come to me or clients say, we want to shift 100% working remote. However, being in the Midwest, we haven't returned to the office yet. A lot of companies haven't. And so, yes, there are companies out there that have, I will say that for people that are on the call today. But there are a lot of companies that are still waiting to see what other companies are doing, and they're kind of sitting back. And so I know a lot of people who have worked from home 100% in, doesn't matter what department you're in. And with that being said, they're still trying to strategize on ways to return to the office.
Yeah.
I will say on top of that, in the early stages of the pandemic, people were excited to work from home. They could wear their pajamas. They could walk their dog whenever they wanted to, make whatever they wanted to for lunch, things like that. Now I'm hearing people are really missing the face-to-face interaction and seeing the mental health effects that it takes from being secluded and not in person. And so now people are wanting to be in the office, but having that choice of freedom, saying, I want to be in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, and having that choice to say, I want to work in a flexible, you know, work model is, you know, popping up more and more.
Trista, it's interesting you say kind of that transition, because like that's one of the conversations that I've been having a lot, has been throughout the entire pandemic. It's been that roller coaster, right? In the beginning, I think so Steelcase has done so much research on this. It's incredible. They've surveyed people from all across the country and really gotten some true data on this. And they've cataloged it into different categories of type of worker and kind of what they prefer. And what they've noticed is that a majority of people in kind of the early pandemic, right? Which depending where you are in the country might determine what month that falls in, but still early pandemic, right? There's a majority of people that fell in the, I'm okay to work at home, or I prefer to work at home, or I like the flexibility. I like being able to, have a button up and my PJs on, and that was higher in the beginning. But as it's gone on, as the time has gone on, there's been a shift. Right. So they've surveyed this over time assuming that they would get the same kind of results. But it was interesting to see that transformation. But I have had clients. So adversely what Trista said, I have had clients that have gone fully remote. Right. It's not a lot of companies that are doing that, although, you might see different things in media. Cushman Wakefield recently did a national survey to understand exactly how many companies are going to go to that full remote. And out of everyone that they surveyed, it was only 11% of companies that were looking to do an indefinite remote. And that's a recent study that was just completed last month. So I think that's really telling, right? I think that's telling that, and of the remainder of those companies, 73% of them were going to a full back to the office solution. So it might mean, and full back to the office might mean a slightly shifted hybrid model, but they're still going back to the office because they see the need of that. And the other piece of that is really, it's a real estate question, right? The question you asked, Lindsay, really comes down to real estate. It's a building, a tenant, or a landlord's not going to allow a tenant to just say, oh, no, all right, go ahead, bye. Go ahead, I'll let you out of your lease, easy peasy, right? That's been something that a lot of commercial realtors have really had to have helped navigate with their tenants throughout the past year and a half. And that's been a huge change of something that's become a greater responsibility, because a lot of companies are looking to say, okay, what am I going to do with my real estate? A lot of them are looking to either condense their real estate. They're looking to either spread out their real estate to maybe be closer to homes. Maybe they don't have a centralized headquarters that has, 10,000 employees all in one high-rise building. Maybe it's 5 separate buildings that are spread out. That way, maybe it cuts down on some people's commute, because that is a piece that people want to try and maintain. I mean, heck, I know I would, right? And then the other question really comes down to, and Mark and Trista mentioned it earlier, is that realization of the existing real estate. Right, I mentioned that pharmaceutical client that I'm working with right now that's getting rid of a majority of their workstations, and what they're saying, they're not able they're not reducing their real estate. They're saying, how do I reutilize that? Right? How do I create spaces that I can activate? How can I make activatable spaces that maybe are workstations, that maybe are desks on wheels? Right? Maybe there's something that I can have these hubs of places where people can do heads down work, but I can also bring them together, and the technology will come with them. So there's products out there like this, there's an entire line of flex desking, and that flex desking is something that has full power and data and everything built into the desk, where it even has a battery backup built into it and a sit stand like you're sitting at right now. And that's something that companies are saying, hey, this is something that might be better for us in this new environment.
Yeah. And for companies, I'm going to jump on that just real quick here. Looking at the cons of going 100%, remote, I think companies and HR departments need to strategize on how to train their employees to separate their work from their life. Focusing on mental health. If you're a younger generation and you're just getting into the workforce, having that stigma and stress around, I have to be online, otherwise my employer won't think I'm working. Getting around that barrier and having the hard conversations to say different work models, if you have different expectations for people working from home, and having the focus on the mental health part, because not everyone wants to work from home or likes to work from home. They might feel alone, and all the stuff that goes along with that as well. So having the communications with your team members to say, hey, who wants to work from home? Who wants the flex? Who wants to be in the office 100% of the time? And I bet you it'd be pretty even on who which bucket those people fall into. So really focusing on mental health too, on creating that strategy moving forward.
I think you're so right. I mean, I was always raised, you know, it's not always exactly what you do, but it's about, sometimes it's just about the people you work with, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're in a full remote model, you don't always get to know those people. I mean, we've got people within my organization that started during the pandemic. They started when we were fully remote, right? So they're people that, you know, I've got, you know, a little over 150 employees that work within our organization, and they may only know 5 of them, maybe the people that are on their direct team, and then they get random phone calls. Sure, everyone's number's built into their phone, but they get a random phone call from someone, you know, from Josh Dubrow, you know, to talk about something. They're like, who is this guy? You know, you know, and it's something that would have been different had we had, you know, had you been in the office, had you been immersed in the culture. And the longer you go without that, the longer you separate from that culture, the harder it is for HR departments to maintain that culture, derive that culture, and also change the culture, right? For an organization that wants to change their culture, how do you go about doing so unless you have a common environment in which to do so?
Yeah, I think that's really what we hear over and over again, and why our lounge seating, our ancillary seating is selling so well right now, is that the company leaders are doing everything they can to try and satisfy the employees' needs who do want to work remotely, but set aside some time where they can come to the office and make sure when they come into the office, it's a great experience. They're very successful at collaboration and socialization because they have the products and the layout to do so. Mm-hmm. So that's what we continually are working on our new product to make sure they're flexible, they're mobile, they're comfortable, they support wellness, and they support all the needs of how workspaces are evolving.
Yeah, and continuing to work on a product to make sure that it's always keeping up with what the new standard is. There's no longer just a standard. It's like a new standard is what it is every time now. So kind of keeping your products up to date with what that is. And I think this is a great segue actually into our next question. So with all the changes in the workplaces that we're seeing, have you guys seen anything within your own company? Mark, any feedback on that? Anything that you guys are seeing, you know, over at 9 to 5 seating when it comes to like changes in those workplaces?
The way we go about the hybrid workspace is that it's not based on job title, but it's really based on, you know, where that employee is. And really in terms of just a multiple set of factors, their living situation, their physical or sensory abilities, and their work style. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we really support our workforce, and how those people that do need to work from home for a certain amount of time, how we satisfy that. But we really believe in the office, and we believe in the fact that the majority of our employees need to be in the office. They need to be in the office to really continue to foster that culture, build our culture, really foster innovation as well as productivity. So the majority of our workers do work in the office. Now, we've had different phases throughout the pandemic where more have worked from home, but we've really evolved our workplace to help foster collaboration more in our workspaces, open up our food and work areas more, make them more collaborative, and it's really working well.
That's great. Great. And Trista, how about I know you are a remote worker, as am I, but with your actual office and the coworkers that may still be, you know, either hybrid or are working there, have you seen any shifts?
I will say I can attest to joining a company during the pandemic. So I started with Framery smack dab last August during all this, and I haven't met one team member in person yet. So having the virtual calls and connection, Framery is based in Finland. And so I probably would have been to Finland 2-3 times by now if we weren't going through this pandemic. However, I haven't been happier. I still feel fully connected to my team members virtually in all, you know, over 70 countries that we're in today. And we're able to still stay connected through virtual calls. as well as just having Slack channels available to post information and learn, different codes and different things questions that are coming up. So we're still very highly connected. But I can't wait to visit my 8-state territory soon and be able to meet a lot of my dealers that I haven't met in person. But staying connected, virtual calls hasn't given me a hiccup at all. So you can still be connected.
And Josh?
Yeah, I mean, we've followed the CDC guidelines very, very closely throughout the entire, throughout everything. And having employees across PA, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and elsewhere, we've really had to be flexible around what it is that, that we need to do to make sure that our employees are kept safe and done our best to be able to do so. And also having a manufacturing facility that didn't close down during any part of this because, we were deemed it as essential business, and we do a lot of manufacturing, delivery, and logistics for some major healthcare companies that needed us to stay operational, and were sending us letters to make sure that our trucks kept moving and that nothing stopped. So we did make some changes. I mean, throughout the office, we installed acrylic screens throughout the office. We did put in a work where you work best policy for a portion of time where employees were able to either work from the office or work from home. It was hard, right? Because if you think about some people who have kids or just you have a bunch of dogs at home barking all the time, right? It's hard sometimes to be able to have that heads down work at home for some people. So we did have to make changes to our organization to be able to accommodate all sorts of different employees throughout the different months and as things changed on sometimes a weekly basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I can speak from my perspective too, that the flexibility I feel like is key, or at least it has been for me. I love the idea of being flexible, and I love the idea of being able to go back to, so MORTARR is based in Minnesota, and I love that I can, especially when things open up a little bit more, but go back and spend some quality time there. We just did a big meeting for some of our departments in Minnesota last month, and I actually met my director for the first time. She picked me up at the airport, me and my dog, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen you for so long, but we never had the chance to be face to face. And it was so nice because I felt like her and I, because we work together every day. So it's like I knew her, I just hadn't been able to like touch her, give her a hug or something. But so yeah, it's been interesting. And MORTARR, I mean, us too, being, having our website and technology, we're still trying to figure out how we make a hybrid workspace work for our team too. It's ever evolving. And I know I'm a big proponent for change. I love it. So I'm all about it. I'm excited for what the future has to hold for sure. So we still have a few questions left, but selfishly, I want to make sure we get to my favorite question that I ask everybody because it's just so fun. So, and it's the last question I shared with all of you, but I would love to know your favorite project that you've seen in some kind of hybrid space. I would love to know just share with me, what you've seen. And Mark, if we could start with you, if you'd like, what your favorite project is.
Yeah, we worked on a project that was really cool. And it was kind of what I've been talking about a little bit and what Josh and Trisha have been talking about, but it was a work cafe. So it was transforming a cafe in a company location into a work cafe. And that's really a space that combines, food and furniture. I mean, food is what we all love to do and take a break, but, make it comfortable while you're enjoying your food, where you still can collaborate with your coworker. So it was an open space plan. It was created, offers a variety of different ancillary sitting spaces and also focus areas that had lounge chairs, swivel chairs, stools, along with tables and different materials, bases and frames, and all these different, products really help support flexibility, mobility, collaboration, movement, and then overall employee wellness. So it turned out really, really good. And we got some great images that we're going to create a project spotlight on.
Oh, good. I will write that down so I follow up with you to get those for your profile, because that would be great to see that work cafe.
Yeah.
So Josh, I'll throw it over to you. So your favorite project that you've seen in like a hybrid space?
Sure. So I'm working right now with a financial customer right now that has multiple offices, and a lot of their workstations are, if you think of like an accounting firm, a very like stodgy, dark, high panel workstation kind of accounting firm with wood everywhere. That's just picture that, right? That's exactly what they have today, and that's what they started with. And throughout the past year and a half, we started the conversation with them really, really early, right? So they realized, all right, pandemic hit, we need to make a change. What is that going to be? So we had an evolving conversation that took place over it was a discussion that was long term. And it was something that we did from us, the design firm involved, and with them, and with various people on their team, to be able to decide for each department and each area, what is the best way to go. And what they did is they transformed their workstation. There were a lot of other cool elements that went into space, but to kind of to pin it all in just one, their workstations went from that traditional high panel workstations to a product called Steelcaseflex, which I may have mentioned earlier, which is something where it's mobile sit-stand desks that have these hubs where actually, a user can say, all right, I'm going to park it inside a hub, and this is where I'm going to work today. Or, hey, I'm going to collaborate with this team today, so I can take my desk and wheel it over there and be able to create these touchdown areas for larger groups of people or just tight groups that might be working on a project. Maybe it's just for the day, maybe it's for a week, maybe it's for that quarter, they happen to be working together, but all their technology, everything they have to work that they need to work is all right there and with them. And that was not a big, if you just imagine that transition from a very traditional model to something where someone can literally take their desk and push it and bring it somewhere else in the office. I mean, totally different. So them going through that transition was a massive conversation. It involved them coming to our office on multiple occasions. It involved them, and this was during the pandemic, so a lot of the stuff we had to do was virtually. We did a lot of virtual tours with them. We took, we had an iPhone sometimes on FaceTime. They say, hey, can you show us what the underneath looks like? So we're literally underneath the table, like showing them what it looks like and the cable management. There's a lot of these little parts and pieces that get involved in this conversation, depending on who you're talking to. And it is space that came out beautifully and is something that's serving them really, really well. We're really excited that we were able to do something really fun like that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm actually envisioning accountants or CPAs with their desk kind of rolling it around with all of the things that they need though, so I love that. Thanks for sharing that project. And Trista, for you, your favorite space in a hybrid?
I would say it would be our healthcare market right now. With this past year, it's near and dear our hearts for everyone and essential workers, and having the ability to provide pods and donate pods to healthcare facilities when they need them the most. Our pods only take a standard outlet, so they can have them in high traffic areas. They can have them in the back rooms where nurses and doctors weren't able to use those break rooms as a group when we were social distancing. And so being able to support the healthcare workers today in this past year has been really impactful for our company.
Yeah, that's great to hear that. So thank you so much, everybody. This has been, I'm telling you, this hour flies by. I hope you three felt the same way. This has been such a great conversation. I just want to thank you all so much for being a part of it. To everyone out there who's watched, don't forget it's currently being recorded. So we'll share this with you as soon as we can, along with panelists' email addresses and their websites so you can learn more about them. So thank you again, the three of you. I really appreciate it. We're ending perfect time. So for everyone out there, make sure to follow MORTARR on social so that you can learn about upcoming webinars or any new features to the site. And we'll see you all soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.